Okay, good afternoon. My name is Kyla Mills and I am a student from the University of Witwatersrand. I'm doing my research masters in psychology and we are sitting here with Dr. Constance Mabela as of 2 weeks ago. This fine lady here has just become a doctor. She wrote an incredible PhD, so we're here to find out a little bit more about her and what her journey has been like coming into psychology and going towards her PhD. So why don't you tell us a little bit first about who you are?
Who am I? Okay, I'm Constance Mabela. Like you've said, I just completed my PhD on what was my topic again? The mental health among unemployed persons, and I wanted to basically see what the role of government intervention would be, since we know obviously that there's a lot of unemployment in South Africa and it has serious implications in terms of well-being is concerned. And I wanted to see, over and above just job creation, what else can government do to ameliorate the impact of unemployment among its people.
Okay, so before we talk about your journey, do you want to just talk a little bit about your findings from that paper?
Yeah, what I did was to use, in this case, government intervention was measured as, I used social grant system to see if it has an impact somehow in affecting the well-being of unemployed people. And I did find that the people who were receiving grants somehow were basically felt better about themselves, and it did lower their chances of reporting depression or alcohol abuse. And it's basically because of the little money that they get from the state, they're able to feel like they can do whatever it is with the money that they get. I did, it was a mixed research design that I did the quantitative part and also supplemented it with the qualitative part, where I had a small group of unemployed women that I interviewed in Soweto, where I asked them about their experiences about being unemployed and how they felt and the impact that unemployment had on them, and also about the social security system. Most of them were receiving child support grants, and you could tell they were saying things like they didn't feel like they were good parents because they could not provide as other parents could for their children. But since being on the system, they're able to do something. It was not a lot, but at least they were able to do something for their kids, and also feeling less of a burden to their families because they have to do a whole lot of things for them. So it was a very nice, the qualitative parts did complement the quantitative part, where I did do the numbers and your regressions, and I could tell that unemployment had a negative effect on the mental health. So basically that's what it was, a government intervention in that manner, provided that it is done correctly. Because the system itself can be frustrating with people not getting their money on time or whatever it is. So provided that it is done properly, it does have an impact of lowering that heavy burden that unemployment exerts on people's well-being. So that was the main finding. Yeah.
As you're talking, I get the sense that you feel very close to your research, as one normally does. But I feel like you really interacted with these people in the qualitative part of your study, and that you really got in there. What were the factors in your personality or in your decisions leading up to that paper that actually compelled you towards that specific topic?
Well, coming up with the topic was not easy. I had done studies on quality of life before, even on my master's. It's based on well-being and quality of life and everything. So I wanted to keep with it because it's something that I identify with, and I know it's very important. People's well-being is very important, and it's taken for granted, but you can't basically do anything without that part being sorted out. So I wanted to do that, and being at Stats SA, working in the Labour Department, we're basically in charge of releasing the unemployment rates and things like that. So I also wanted to do something like that. We produce the numbers all the time about how many people in South Africa are unemployed, but we don't go further than that. And instead of seeing things improving in South Africa, it's getting worse. The number of young people that are unemployed is increasing. It's close to 70% now. So I really wanted to do something like that, just to find out what is the experience of these people and what can be done to help them. So coming up with the topic, I played around with a few things, but finally I landed up with that. And it was mainly going to be quantitative, because that's what I'm good at.
You come from Stats SA, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
so,
well, that makes sense, yes.
Yeah, so it was mainly going to be quantitative. And until I spoke to my supervisor, I had 2 supervisors. Eventually, the first one, it didn't work out, and then I got my second supervisor. And it was only after talking to him that I realized that, no, we needed to do something else. The numbers are not going to be enough. Mm-hmm. And I was very skeptical in the beginning, because I knew that was not my strength, the qualitative part of it, the analysis and all of it. But yeah, he was very encouraging, and I went through it. And funny enough, it was only after doing that part, the qualitative part, that I really became part of what I was doing. Because all of a sudden, it wasn't just a topic about unemployment and the numbers that you see going up and down. I could actually identify with the faces that I'm now dealing with. When I'm talking about unemployment, there's a face. I know this person who's going through this. And yeah, that experience really, really did help. And I don't think that my thesis would have been what it was. And my personal experience, actually, of having gone through the thesis itself wouldn't have been the same had I not done that. So, yeah.
So you're glad to have been exposed through your new supervisor to this qualitative side of research.
Yeah.
I, as a research psychology student, feel that it's always important to incorporate as many angles and methods. So I respect the fact that you stepped out of your comfort zone and actually decided to take that on, and I'm glad that it worked for you.
Yeah, I know.
And what has your journey been leading up to your PhD? What have you got degrees in? Where did you study? What did you initially want to study? Did you study that?
Yeah, I've always wanted to do psychology. Always. So I enrolled for my junior degrees, but I've always been with UNISA also. Because I've always been sort of like also working and doing other things. So it was easier for me doing it that way with UNISA. So I went through my junior degrees with them, and then when it came to masters, where I had a choice whether to do the clinical psychology or research psychology, I'd already been doing a field research in my jobs as interns here and there. So I really, really did like the numbers and the stories that they tell. So you're not only going to be talking about this is a person who's depressed and diagnosis and trying to help them, but you're going further to see the impacts of this. How is this related to this and that? So that's always been my passion, research. So I went through the research psychology at UNISA, which was very good. And I was at MRC at the time, so it was very nice getting the practical experience also with UNISA until now with my PhD, still with UNISA, so very loyal.
Okay. So it's been quite a journey for you, but you kind of stayed consistent with your university. Was there ever a time that you, during your degree, that you felt maybe psychology is not for me, or during your research master's degree, maybe research isn't for me?
No, never. The nice thing about this research is now, as soon as you've got the methodology and how things work, you can apply it in so many different areas. Like, I'm a psychologist, but I work in labor department at StatsSA. So you can do different things with it, with the research. That's what I like about it. And I've never thought about doing anything else other than the psychology part of it, because I like human behavior, and I'm fascinated by how we are affected by things and how we respond to things. So that's always been my thing. But the beautiful thing about doing research psychology is that you can apply it in so many other different fields. Like, I'll go back to my study, that in the findings that the intervention to helping unemployed people didn't only request psychologists, making facilities available, for example, to help people deal with what they're going through during their unemployed phases. It also requires the government to be involved, so that's political. It also requires economists to come up with policies that would be good for the country, to grow our economy so that we can have more job creation and stuff. So no, I think I've always liked psychology. I've always liked research. I love it. Still doing it, and would like to continue in this field.
Do you feel that research psychology is a little bit underrated by people in the field of psychology?
I'm not sure about people in the field of psychology, but overall, it could be a little bit underrated. Like at work, they would still be saying, "Oh, psychology," but still, what do you do? What does psychology have to do with this and that and that? But it only comes from not being understood. People don't really know what it entails. When they think psychology, they think about a person sitting, you and me sitting together, and me telling you my problems, or what are you thinking? Can you tell what am I thinking? That's what they think, most of the time.
Are you psychoanalyzing me?
Exactly. So it's a bit stereotyped in that sense. So yeah, if it is underrated, it's only because people do not understand what it is that we do, and how vast it is, and how you can apply it in so many other things other than just the psychoanalysis part of it. So yeah.
Very interesting. And what has your personal journey been like? Have you had a tough time through your studies? Were there times where it was very difficult to get work in? Were there times when you were under stress? I know you said that you worked as well. Was it something that you found quite easy to get through?
It was not easy, that I can say. Being a mother, I've got 2 little kids, 4 and 6. Yeah, so
4 and 6.
Yeah, if I could remember correctly. So it's not very easy being a wife and a parent, and also your commitments at work, and none of it. You can't let any of that role suffer because you've decided to study. So, but what I had to do was basically have to multitask and have to plan. That was the only way. So if I decided that on a week I'm gonna give in so many hours towards my studies, and yeah, so that's what it just has to be. My husband was very supportive also, so he could also fill in those gaps where I'm not around because of the studying. And also doing the thesis also was not as easy. I had not been studying for many years. I did my master's in 2004. I got my master's, so there was a big gap. So I had to refamiliarize myself with the theories, with what's going on in psychology and everything else. So I took a year before I even started with writing the proposal, where I was just studying and studying, just reading more literature about what's going on. That also helped me to come up with the topics, just sort of solidify the topic that I really wanted to go with. So there was that, and also developing the proposal, I had to go back and refamiliarize myself academically with what's been going on in the field. So yeah, but once that was sorted, the first year was very difficult because I had no plans.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I just ask, how long did it take you to get your PhD, just so that we have some idea?
I did it for 3 years, eh? Yeah.
Okay.
It was 3 years. But I did the proposal for 1 year, but I had not registered. It was before you had to register, I think. Yeah, but I was getting help from the supervisor also still.
Okay.
So I think all in all, I've been working on it full time for 4 years, but registered for 3 years.
Okay. You were saying something before I really interrupted you about the first year.
Remember.
You can't remember.
The first year, I don't remember what I was saying.
Okay, it doesn't matter. I was chatting to a group of students earlier, and a lot of them are honest students here from Wits. There's a couple from UNISA as well. And I'm 26 years old, and I've taken quite a while to eventually get to the program that fits for me, which is research psychology. And I was encouraging them not to be so hard on themselves about getting their masters done, getting their PhDs done. How do you feel about that? Because they're sitting there and they're, 22, 23 years old, and they want to now apply for masters, get in, they want to be this kind of psychologist and rush off into the world and do their PhDs immediately. What would you say to them, and would you encourage them to take that time like you did, just to sort of get yourself together and establish yourself before you did your PhD?
I think that's a bit of a tricky question. I think it's got pros and cons, both of it. The way that I did it, the benefits of doing it the way that I did it, and I think, honestly speaking, I'll still do it the same way. I had taken that time off because then I had been experiencing so many different work areas, even in the field. I was able to find myself, to know exactly what it is that I want to do, especially when it comes to a doctorate, because that's what you're going to specialize with. So that allowed me that time to learn about myself, about my career, which is very important also, and what it is that I really wanted to do. So getting that experience from my different work areas was very important also. So I don't see how else I could have done it. If I had just gone straight and did my PhD. The downfall is what I said earlier on, because now when I finished my master's, I was not married, I didn't have kids. So maybe it would have been easier, I guess, I don't know, if I had just done it like that. But if you have to weigh, it is very hard when you do it when you have so many things now going on in life. But it's worth it. I know myself now, I know who I am, I know what I want out of life in terms of my career. So I would still do it the same way. So it depends on who you are and what you think is best for you.
I suppose that is the case.
Yeah.
Because I worry, I think you're incredible. I looked at part of your paper, as I was saying before the interview, and I was thinking, this is an established person. This is a person who knew that this is what they wanted. This is a person who was steadfast in this ambition. This is a person who looked at this and thought, that is where I'm going, and that's how I want to do it. And I was just thinking, about these honest students sitting there and saying, I need to find out who I am right now, right here, and know by the age of 25, 26 what it is I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So
it would be sad to go through all of that just because you want to finish, and then later on discover that's not really what you want to do with the rest of your life. So yeah, like I said, I would still do it the same way, but it is not easy.
Is there anything else that you would like to add about your experiences coming up to this point, even about maybe in high school when you decided that psychology was for you? Anything about your personality that you would like to talk about? I mean, it's people behind the papers. So what would you like to say about you as a person?
That's a very difficult question.
Well, there are about 6 of them. I'm so sorry. You can pick one.
I don't know. Like I said before, I've always... I didn't know that psychology is exactly what I wanted to do when I was younger, I mean at high school. But given my personality, because like I said, I've always been curious about what drives human beings to do the things that they do, what motivates us, our personalities, how come one person would handle the situation like this and another one the very same situation in a different way. So the human aspects of life has always been interesting to me. Yeah, so I knew I wanted to do something in the human sciences, but I didn't really know what it was. And then when I was in matric, we had people coming in from I went to Varsity College for studying, but you write uni situations, and they had their representatives there from different faculties. And I went into humanities, and there was a person there who was talking about these are different things under humanities, and psychology was one of them. So I did have a chat with them. I was in matric then. So yeah, and after talking to that person, I knew this is it. That's what I want to do. And yeah, and that's why I decided to go and do it, and been doing it ever since. The interesting thing about the whole thing also was when it came to masters, like I said, I liked research and everything. But given my personality also, when it came to doing clinical psychology, I thought maybe I might not be able to do this because I know myself and I tend to get involved in things. And I thought, okay, as much as, yes, I did love research and stuff, another reason for probably not even wanting to go down the clinical stuff is that I thought maybe I would not be able to handle, like if you come to me and you have your problems and stuff, instead of being objective and dealing with it from that way, empathizing from that sense, I would basically just draw myself into your issues that I would not be of any help at the end of the day. So this was also a nice way to stay involved in psychology without necessarily
having that one-on-one contact.
Yeah, with people. So yeah. So
awesome. Power to research.
So yeah. That's why I decided. That's another reason. Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to open it up to others? Does anyone have any questions?
This feels like a very ignorant question, but just briefly, can you tell me the difference between research and clinical?
Oh, clinical psychology is where you actually go and I think you become, you do therapy.
I think I've got the basic idea, but I like what you said. I heard what you said about research psychology being more adaptable, more, you could do more with it. So that was interesting, because I'm only just discovering research psychology.
Okay. All right. Because you do methodology, you study methodology, you study statistics, how to analyze what you are studying, applying whatever method you need. You can take any topic. You can take any topic that you want to study, be it even in whatever. And then you apply those, methodology doesn't change. If you're going to study this, you need to do A, B, C, and D. So you need to have your problem statement, there, and you need to have how you're going to approach that program's statement. So as far as that is concerned, it stays the same regardless of the field that you're doing. So that's that part of it. Is what I was talking about.
And then clinical obviously is the one-to-one.
Well, you know, not necessarily one-to-one. I mean, there are clinical psychologists who have family sessions, for example.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, I understand that this is about Constance, but I just like to add to that. For me, as a research master's student, it's only something that I found out about late in the process, and it's something we were discussing earlier. And I feel that research is a very versatile thing, as Constance was saying. And I feel that research allows you more room to be an individual. If you don't buy into a certain theory, for example, if you come to Wits, it's strongly psychodynamic, and if you don't buy into that, you don't have to be that as a research psychologist. You can be an individual. You can look around. You can decide on your topic by yourself. It's not that because you're now a clinical psychologist, you must now look for a research topic within clinical psychology. As a research psychologist, you can pick, as Constance said, from anywhere. It allows you that room to be an individual and to really just discover yourself in the process and be fixed and stable in that, as Constance is in her own research.
And then, what was your title again? The mental health of
mental health among unemployed persons.
So in that context, I'm also very interested in the concept of Africanization. How do you respond to that as an African, in terms of the use of Western approaches and the developing African approaches?
Okay.
And I mean, to what extent is that practical in dealing closely with people?
Yeah, I'm going to present later on, and you will see even from my results. You do get cultural influences in what we try to study. I used to measure mental health. I used depression, alcohol and substance abuse, and also behavioral problems also associated with physical being. So I found that in my study, black people were least likely to report themselves to be suffering from mental health illnesses. And the literature was basically saying that the difficulties with these kind of measurements that we use in, for example, a context like South Africa, where majority are black people, is that they don't even, the way we define things is not the same. It's a Western definition of depression, which I'm going to have to use on the black population, which basically they may not really understand depression the same way that a European person would understand depression. So in terms of measurement, we're still having a lot of problems where for African context, most of our measurements are not relevant, or they're not cultural friendly and have not been tested in that way to see if you will yield the same results using the same measurements. So it is still a big challenge. I don't know how far we're going to get with that, but unfortunately it is what we have. It is what we have to use. And now I'm going to come and stand up here and say black people are least likely to report mental health illnesses, when that's not, well, I don't actually really know if they understood when I said depression means you're feeling like this, and have you been feeling like that and that. You know what I mean?
They're expressing it in other terms.
Yes, you know, we also have things like, you know, for black people, they may not necessarily feel comfortable telling a stranger that I feel blue most of the time. It's not, depression, for example, is not something that one would freely talk about, especially to a stranger. You'd rather just keep it to yourself and deal with your own issues. So, yeah, it is a big challenge. but unfortunately it is what it is, and I hope that in future we'd have more researchers in psychology coming up with instruments that will be cultural.
And is there active work going on developing instruments?
There is active work, yes, there is. Sorry, I'm so sorry to cut you short. Can we get another question if anyone wants to ask?
Constance, can I ask you a question? You've spoken candidly about your supervisor, and I would like to know what criteria, if any, did you use when selecting a supervisor? Did you look at the title, the publication history? Did you look at the charm? Did you look at whether he or she was an expert in the field that you conducted your study?
Okay, the way that we found each other, my supervisor and I, was I had actually submitted my dissertation to a different supervisor who, because he had so many other proposals on his tables, had actually suggested to me that I spoke to Edward, and I approached him and we had a chat, and I asked him if he could have a look at my proposal, and he did, and then after going through it, decided that he was going to help me. But so that's how we met. So I didn't really pick him, and he didn't really pick me. We met through a third party. But going through the whole experience, I don't think I would have done it had we not understood each other in the manner that we did, because it's very involved. So you have to be on the same place, and I really felt like he got where I was coming from, and also from him I could get which direction I should go. So the role of a supervisor, like I said earlier on, he was the reason why I decided to go and include that part of my study also. So the role of a supervisor in doing this kind of work is very, very important. Otherwise it would be impossible to do it. So you need to understand each other, which I was very lucky that we did, and he was very supportive also throughout the whole process. So it was lucky how we met. It was by chance, but it worked because we understood each other.
Thanks, Chair.
I just want to ask something. What is, funny type of question, but what does the doctorate mean to you?
Oh. Okay. To me, because I chose a topic that I was really passionate about and comfortable with, it means that I have found my place in terms of well-being and unemployment. So I can specialize in this field. Personally, it's a great accomplishment. I always like starting something and actually finishing it. So had I just left it at Masters, I wouldn't have finished it. Like my father always says, once you start something, you go right at the top. You finish it. So for me, it was a great accomplishment professionally to have done this, and it means for me also that for my children, I have 2 little girls, so I want to be a good role model for them, to learn that once they start something, they could also finish it. So it's the greatest achievement academically that I could get. So it's validation that you can do this and you've done it. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. You've been wonderful with us, and we've had some incredible insights into who you are and what your process has been like, and I hope you've enjoyed sharing some of that with us.
Okay, thank you for
Thank you.
having me.
Thank you very much.